Hi, I'm McFarlane Muleli. This teacher guide is about the Mindset Learn series of lessons about the world of advertising. In this guide, we will tell you what the series of lessons is about and how it links to the curriculum. We also discuss ideas for using the lessons with your learners. You may want to make notes, so have a paper and pencil ready. Although all learners will be familiar with advertisements, this series aims to take learners behind the scenes so that they will understand how adverts are created. To do this, we introduce learners to advertising terminology and we meet advertising professionals who explain the process of advertising to us. In these lessons, we also analyze some examples of adverts and discuss some of the techniques that are used in television adverts, public service announcements, and out-of-home advertising. Finally, we discuss the types of adverts that are aimed at modern teenagers and the problems and possibilities with new media advertising forms such as sending email and SMS messages. There are 8 lessons in this series: Introduction to Advertising, Ideas to Adverts, Analyzing a Television Advert, Analyzing another television advert, Emotion, Humor, and Irony in Advertising, Persuasive Advertising Techniques, Advertising Outside, Advertising for Screenagers. The lessons in this series address Learning Outcome 2, Reading and Viewing, and Learning Outcome 4, Language. And they will assist learners in achieving a range of assessment standards, including being able to explain the meaning of a wide range of visual, audio, and multimedia texts, to develop critical language awareness and explain how language positions them by implicit and explicit messages, values, and attitudes. The learning outcome and assessment standards for each lesson are stated at the beginning of each video lesson in the series. In addition, lesson outcomes linked to these are also given in each lesson. As I've already mentioned, this series introduces learners to advertising professionals. It analyzes adverts and explains a range of advertising mediums and techniques. In compiling these lessons, we've included interviews with professionals so that learners will be exposed to advertising as a possible career, and so they can be told some of the theory of advertising by people who are experts in this field. The reason why we have analyzed so many adverts in this series is to show learners what to look out for when they are presented with an advert to be able to make a critical assessment of it. In providing an analysis of an advert, we also provide learners with questions and activities to get them to think about adverts. This will help them develop confidence in analyzing adverts on their own or in exam situations. If possible, you will find it useful to watch the videos by yourself before you show them to your learners. This will enable you to make notes of places to stop the video and ask questions or have a discussion. It will also allow you to see when and how you could best incorporate the video lessons into your learning program. You could also think of activities you could do with your learners before or after watching the videos. To get learners interested in these lessons and to keep them involved, you will find it useful to get them to do the tasks and activities presented in the lesson. These tasks are linked to the learning outcomes given in the lessons and to at least one assessment standard in the curriculum policy. Completing the tasks will give both you and your learners evidence of how well they have achieved the lesson outcomes. The task can also be used as part of a learner's record of progress towards the assessment standards for each grade. Throughout the lessons, you will see the pause icon. The pause indicates a good place to stop the video and get your learners to complete a quick activity or have a discussion about something. Obviously, you don't have to stop the lesson at every pause, but should you choose to use them, you will find that they will help to get learners involved and keep them paying attention. Now let's have a more detailed look at the lessons in the series and how you can use them in your classroom. The first lesson is an introduction to advertising. Prior to showing this lesson to your learners, you may want to ask them to write down how examples of all the different types of adverts they encounter in a typical day. They could then compare their list to the scenario we show in the lesson. This may lead to them discovering that they are exposed to even more forms of advertising than they actually thought. In this lesson, we also define the terms intention, medium, and target audience, and interview the mindset sales and marketing executive to discuss how these concepts are applied to devising the advertising campaign for the Learn channel. After you have shown this lesson, ask learners to apply this terminology to another advertising campaign and to explain why, for example, certain mediums were chosen. In the second lesson, we see how ideas become adverts. This lesson guides learners through the process of positioning a product, briefing an advertising agency, the agency coming up with a concept and pitching it to the client, and finally, an advert being produced. In explaining these steps, we include interviews with a range of professionals involved in advertising and marketing. So this lesson would be worth showing to the learners who are interested in advertising as a career or those who are simply interested in knowing how adverts are developed. In the next two lessons, we analyze television adverts. In these lessons, we examine two adverts that were part of the same campaign for Liberty Life. And we also look at a public service announcement that promotes the Starfish Foundation. In our analysis of these adverts, we introduce learners to the AIDA steps and we show how these adverts attract attention, keep interest, create desire, and encourage action. After showing lesson 3 as an example of advertising an advert, you may want to show the adverts in lesson 4 and encourage learners to analyze them by themselves or in small groups prior to showing them our analysis. In lesson 5, we look at how emotion, humor, and irony are used in advertising. In this lesson, we use the public service announcements to teach learners about some of the techniques that are used in advertising. The task at the end of this lesson requires learners to analyze a public service announcement on their own. By now, learners should be able to complete this task with confidence. After showing this lesson, you may want to source other examples of television adverts that use these techniques for learners to analyze in groups. The next lesson explores persuasive advertising techniques. In this lesson, we include some examples of adverts that exaggerate some common advertising techniques. We have done this to make the techniques quite obvious to learners, and they should be able to spot how the advert is being manipulative. As an extension to this lesson, learners could present their own parodied advert to the class and then explain the techniques that it is using to try and manipulate viewers. Lesson 7 looks at advertising outside. Advertising on taxis, buses and billboards is a growing business. In this lesson, we speak to advertising professionals about some of the advantages of this form of advertising, and we encourage learners to analyze advertisements in their own environment. After you have shown this lesson to your learners, you may want to ask the learners to walk around the perimeter of the school and list all of the adverts that they see. They could then choose one of these adverts to analyze according to the AIDA steps. This exercise will show learners how many adverts they are exposed to within their environment and will make them more aware of the techniques that these adverts use. In the final lesson, we consider advertising aimed at screenagers. First of all, we learn that a screenager is a teenager who uses many devices with screens such as cell phones and computers. We then learn about the types of advertising that are designed to appeal to these young people and the drawbacks that these have, such as spam mail. As teenagers become increasingly technologically literate, it is important for them to understand how this exposes them to more advertising and what they can do about this. By the time you come to the end of this series, learners should know more about how advertising works. This knowledge will make them more informed and critical consumers who are less likely to be negatively influenced by advertising. To extend and practice what we have taught in this series, you can source other examples of adverts for learners to analyze, including print adverts, and you can get learners to design adverts of their own using the techniques mentioned in the lessons. We hope that you will enjoy using these lessons to introduce your learners to the world of advertising. If you would like more information about using these lessons or lesson notes for each lesson, please refer to our website www.mindset.co.za. I'm McFarlane Muleli. Goodbye.